Childers Diet to Stop Arthritis, Norman F. Childers. It may sound overly optimistic to say that muscle stiffness, crippling disability, and the aches, pains, and many discomforts of arthritis can be prevented, reduced, or cured by controlling the diet and stopping the use of tobacco. Total elimination of the nightshades from daily usage by sensitive people, about 10% of the population, appears to be the important factor. The so-called nightshades include the potato, tomato, tobacco, eggplant, and all kinds of peppers except the black pepper. There are a few other foods and factors that may be involved, but the nightshades are the key. Bioarthritis, the author is referring to musculoskeletal and connective tissue disorders as rheumatoid and osteoarthritis, bursitis, tennis elbow, gout, lower back pain, ankylosing spondylitis, tendinitis, systemic lupus, erythematosus, and possibly a number of other related diseases. Responsive cooperators in this study also indicate that neurological disorders as myasthenia gravis, multiple sclerosis, persistent headaches, depression, and others could be related to the consumption and usage of the nightshades. Certainly these and other diseases should be checked. In fact, we would be glad to hear from and cooperate with anyone on the diet who may be recovering from a disease for which the treatments have been ineffective. There are many of these diseases listed in the health manuals for which there is no known cause or control. Although we do not have adequate data at this time, there are indications from cooperators that heart attack, muscle spasm, hardening of the arteries, strokes, fast aging, high blood pressure, diverticulitis, kidney stones, breakdown of the major organs, and possibly cancer are related to the usage of the nightshades. Development of these diseases in the body is usually subtle and slow in coming. Arthritis appears to be only a symptom of the development of these other diseases. The National Institute of Health in Maryland has noted that tobacco usage is related to several of the above diseases. The food nightshades are first cousins to tobacco. They all belong to the same plant family, the Solanaceae. It probably makes little difference whether the toxins of the nightshades enter the body and blood system through the lungs or through the alimentary canal. It is easy to correlate tobacco usage with human diseases. Smokers can be separated from non-smokers, but with the food nightshades, everyone eats at least some of them almost every day. Based on the experiences in the study reported here with thousands of arthritics over the world, mostly in the USA and Canada, at least 72% have improved or completely lost their aches, pains, and swelling, and some have discarded canes, walkers, and wheelchairs, depending upon how far the disease has advanced. This is true only if the cooperators are able to avoid the nightshades completely. It is often said, once an arthritic, always an arthritic. Arthritics generally appear to be highly sensitive to the nightshades and probably will continue to be sensitive as long as they live. They must adhere to this diet to remain free of aches and pains and improve. The comments are based on 6 to 18 years of study discussed in this book. In trying to do a diet, different people seem to proceed and react differently. Some find it a problem to do any diet, for example, losing weight. Attitude and sincerity are important. If a person hurts badly enough, however, he will do almost anything to get rid of his misery, even to the point of completely avoiding the nightshades, which it takes to get results. Many of the nightshades are hidden in a wide variety of prepared foods, and only bits are enough to keep the problem going. People who simply love the nightshades cannot do without them, eat or use them heavily. Apparently are addicted to them, as with tobacco. Usually are the ones who get the aches, pains, and problems first, the worst. Many complain of discomfort during and after the summer seasons of home gardening, and when fresh vegetables are available in quantity in the markets and on the roadside stands. Age seems to make little difference in sensitivity to the nightshades. Our studies show babies and teenagers suffer the same as senior citizens. History has shown that almost everyone will develop some form of arthritis sooner or later, certainly if they live into their 50s to 80s. As we have watched cooperators locally and listened to them by phone and in writing, it is not uncommon to find retired people who are on the diet eventually performing as they did in their 20s and 30s. In other words, you may be able to add 10 to 20 years or more to your life, and these should be enjoyable years since you should regain agility, think and react faster, and have a happy outlook with increased energy and endurance. Some dieters have gone back to work after retirement. Some have gone back to school. Again, this may sound overly optimistic, but thousands of cooperators have been receiving the benefit outlined above. Study the letters and case histories in Chapter 3. You may identify with some of them. The biggest deficiency in human health today is the nutrition and diet research. Advertising, media, news, and promotion sometimes have been misleading. Representative Margaret Heckler of Massachusetts, member of the House Agricultural Committee, Washington, D.C., commented after the weekend on a Kansas farm, "There is more sophisticated dietary knowledge in the production of beef than there is in the medical profession in the treatment of its patients. You will find this to be true not only in beef production, but in all U.S. agriculture, covering both plants and animals. This is attributed to the missionary-like teaching and research in the agricultural colleges and experiment stations the past century. This book is presented to you in all humbleness, inasmuch as the author has been a professional horticulturist most of his life in university and an experiment station research and teaching. His mission has been to try to show people how to grow better nightshades and other vegetables and fruits. But the bottom line really is our health and longevity. Obviously, there will be an impact of this book on the food, drug, and medical professions and industries, but it will probably be only moderate at most, as the case has been with the tobacco health situation the past half-century. The nightshade plant Solanaceae species and their products long have been suspected in animal and human nutrition. Some are highly poisonous as the black and deadly nightshades. There are numerous beautiful ornamentals in the Solanaceae as petunia, chalice vine, day jasmine, and the angels and devil's trumpets. Some have provided important medical drugs as belladonna, atropine, and scopolamine, the latter being used widely as in sleeping pills. Several are among the top food plants as tomato, white potato, garden pepper, and eggplant. Tobacco is also closely related to nightshades, known as the divine plant, the dirty weed, has a questionable record in human health with respect to cancer, lung and heart disease. There are some 90 genera of Solanaceae family with over 2,000 species. The family ranks close to grasses and legumes in importance to mankind. Origin of the name nightshades is not clear. The English apparently called members of the Solanaceae genus Solanum genus nightshades because of their evil and loving narcotic nature of the night. Also, the Latin word solanum means quieting with sedative qualities. The Romans in the old day were said to prepare potions of deadly nightshades and offer them to their enemies. The shade came down for a long night. The white potato. Charles B. Heiser, Jr. of Indiana College University, Bloomington, noted that the white potato, Solanum tuberosum, is called the Earth's apple when it comes from the highlands of Peru. The potato has been a staple food for centuries, especially for the Irish, providing high food value for one of the few crops producing abundantly in their climate. During a famine of 1782, Scottish Highlanders complained of more than the usual dropsy, accumulation of fluid in joints, when potatoes were eaten abundantly due to shortage of other foods. The white potato contains the glycoalkaloid solanine, among others, which is present throughout the potato, but mostly in the peel. Solanine, if ingested above the safe levels, will cause toxic reactions in humans and animals, particularly if the potatoes are not selected, grown, and handled properly. Potato breeders have attempted to keep the solanine content of commercial potato cultivators below 20 milligrams per 100 grams of fresh tuber. It is thought that this content should be safe for human consumption. The potency of solanine can be appreciated when it is noted that if all of the solanine, 10,000 mgms in 120 pounds of potatoes, were fed to a horse at once, it would kill him. The agriculture and medical research has been concerned with the solanine content of white potatoes for decades. As noted in the subsequent chapters, solanine is not water soluble. It is stable and it is difficult to destroy by cooking. Solanine is a powerful cholinesterase inhibitor. Cholinesterase is an enzyme in the body that affords agility of movement of the muscles. This may account for the stiffness and slow movement of some people susceptible to this inhibition. Humans may be divided roughly into three groups. 1. Those fairly resistant to cholinesterase inhibition. 2. Those moderately susceptible. And 3. Those highly susceptible. Kingsbury Cornell University says, to associate this cholinesterase inhibition with the mechanism by which solanase alkaloids are toxic is the intriguing thought begging experimentation. A leading pest of the white potato and relative is the Colorado potato beetle, which seems to have a resistance to solanine glycoalkaloids and the cholinesterase inhibiting type insecticide as 7. Hence, to control the beetle on potato plants, another type of insecticide had to be sought by the entomologist. Many insect pests can be controlled by cholinesterase inhibiting compounds as nicotine and tobacco, which causes spasms and paralysis in insects. Livestock have died with a frequency in North America and Europe after ingesting potato vines, sprouts, peelings, and green spoiled potatoes. Human fatalities are documented. For a detailed discussion of the poisonous nature of the nightshades and other plants, see the book by John M. Kingsbury. Today it is difficult to find a daily meal around the world without the white potato, prepared in one way or the other. It ranks second to none in the production of calories per hectare. Over 90% of the world's crop is grown in Europe, where it is used in much greater quantity for human and livestock foods, for the production of alcohol, for the manufacture of synthetic rubber, and for starch and sizing textiles and paper. In the United States, it can be found in over 30 products on grocery shelves. Potato flour or starch is used to give body to some breads, donuts, biscuits, candies, cookies, and in soups. The potato is used in some baby food. Odd to say, there is an old-time remedy for arthritis of drinking water in which potato has been boiled. Also, there is an old saying in New Hampshire shortly after the Irish brought the potato to the United States in 1719. That white potatoes shortened men's lives. The tomato is almost as important as a potato on world menus. Tomato production and consumption has grown tremendously in the U.S. since the early 1900s, are eaten fresh out of hand in salads and processed into dozens of food on the grocery shelves, including baby foods. The tomato is high in vitamins and low in starch, whereas a potato is the opposite, low in vitamins and high in starch. The tomato and potato are closely related. The tomato apparently originated in Peru, Ecuador, Bolivia area of the Andes and was eaten by the American Indians long before it was taken to Europe and Africa, then returned to North America around the early 1900s. The tomato was termed the love apple and grown at first only as an ornamental. It was considered poisonous and disease-producing and still is by some Europeans. The vines and suckers are poisonous to livestock. Steroid alkaloids of the solanine type have been isolated from tomato and other nightshades. In olden times, the tomato was referred to as the cancer apple. Polish literature shows that tomatine in tomatoes has toxicity similar to solanine in the potato. The tomato is the number one processed food in the USA due to heavy usage in fast food restaurants as tomato sauce and other products, which have moved from 9 pounds per capita in 1965 to over 15 pounds in the late 1970s. The green pepper. The garden pepper includes capsaicin fruticum, which according to the horticulturist is the Tabasco pepper, and C. allanum, which is the cherry, red cluster, bell, sweet, pimento, chili, long, and red peppers. The garden pepper should not be confused with black or condensed pepper, which is a small berry of tropical vine. Piper nigerum of the Piperaceae family, not the Solanaceae family. Black pepper does not aggravate arthritis. Paprika, which is found in many items on the grocery shelves and sprinkled on seafoods and other dishes, comes from a long, thick, non-pungent pepper mostly grown in Hungary. The USA imports of this pepper approach 6,000 metric tons a year. California produces 7,000 metric tons. The Tabasco pepper is the basis of the pungent Tabasco sauces made in Louisiana and used widely across the world. Cayenne pepper and the dried ground fruit of the long, slender hot pepper named after a coastal city in French Guiana, pimento or pimentio peppers, are the mild sweet kinds of Spain, or the thick fleshed bright red sweet peppers in the United States, used to decorate salad dishes, in olive and cut into bits in rice, peas, shelled corn, etc. Chili from chili peppers in Spain are the hot kinds, as in the United States, and used, example, in chili con carne. The garden peppers also originated in Peru, having been found in the embroidery of the Indian garment of Peruvian runes, used there more than 2,000 years ago. Mexicans today eat incredible quantities of hot peppers in the fresh, green, and red ripe, dried, matured forms. The hot red pepper is widely used in many foods throughout the southern United States. Hot pepper is also used in the tropic to mask off-flavor meat that has not been properly refrigerated, if at all. Hot pepper may cause skin rashes to people harvesting and handling the crop. Mailmen have used spray portions to repel dogs, preparation used to stop babies from sucking their thumbs. For some people, it can cause an inflamed alimentary canal and serious digestive problems. There is a wealth of information on the chemical consumption of peppers, as noted in the Dr. Zitnek Chapter 4. The eggplant. The eggplant, also grown as an ornamental in the early days, was not widely eaten until relatively recent years. In the Mediterranean area, it was thought to cause insanity if eaten daily for a month. In fact, it was called the mad apple, which may come from an Italian name Mazzalana, or in the pre-Linnean name Mala insana. The eggplant is thought to have originated in Assa, Burma area of India. It was introduced to American gardens in 1806 as an ornamental, then grown only for food in the present century. Some cultivators grown under certain conditions may develop considerable bitterness, probably due to the high solanine content in the skin area. There is little information on the chemical composition of the eggplant. There are dozens of shapes, sizes, and kinds of fruits, ranging from small round to long banana-like, and colored from white to red, orange, ashen, purple, brown, and black. General consumption of the eggplant is much less than nightshades. Other solanaceous crops. Mention should be made of the husk tomato or ground cherry, which is grown in many home gardens but not commercially. One of our cooperators in Kentucky kept complaining of sore inflamed hands until we identified the ground cherry as a member of the Solanaceae family. The garden huckleberry has leaves and berries that should be avoided by arthritics. It is known as morel, wonderberry, or sunberry. The cherry and plum tomatoes often served in restaurants are genetic variations of the common larger tomatoes, as is also true of yellow tomatoes. All aggravate arthritics. Other edible Solanaceae crops include the pepino, European bittersweet, tree tomato, tomatillos, strawberry tomatoes, and Cape gooseberry. All of these crops, leaves, or fruits will likely cause arthritics problems. The nightshade food plants are easy to grow in home gardens and are highly favored because of their delectable products and productiveness in a limited space. Many susceptible people who have home gardens seem to develop aches and pains in their backs, wrists, hands, shoulders, elbows, chest, and hips in the late summers after they've eaten voraciously of the nightshades from their home garden and the roadside markets. Many cooperators have reported skin rashes, headaches, asthma, and other minor health problems after working with nightshades in the garden, the markets, or processing plants. Within the past few decades, American diets have tilted heavily towards the nightshade, where in former years we ate mostly mashed potatoes, patty cakes, or boiled potatoes with the skins removed. Now we have baked potatoes, skins are high in solanine, or French fries with ketchup. Now we eat pizza, ketchup on many things, and salads almost daily from the salad bar, with fresh tomatoes and peppers. Tomato juice for breakfast as an appetizer and Bloody Marys or as a good cold drink any time of the day has become quite common. Fast food restaurateurs use enormous quantities of nightshade vegetables could account for the ill effects of so-called junk foods or mainly the younger generations. Symptom of nightshade poisoning. John M. Kingsbury, his book noted under white potato, makes the interesting statement, despite ancient and general reputation of nightshades as poisonous plants, very few feeding experiments have been performed with any of the toxic species. It is generally believed that the toxicity of the species may vary over wide limits with factors of its environment, parts of the plant, and degree of maturity. Genetics may play a part. The symptoms and lesions caused by the many species of Solanum and relatives are quite uniform, even though their chemical composition is somewhat different. The saponic-like glycoalkaloid is an irritant and in physical characteristics causes red blood cell destruction in vitro. The steroid alkamine is readily absorbed by the intestine and responsible for the nervous symptoms. Response in animals and man are similar. Gastrointestinal irritation. This may be either slight or severe enough to overshadow nervous effects, including anorexia, loss of appetite, nausea, dizziness, abdominal pain, vomiting, constipation, or diarrhea, sometimes with blood. Red blood cell loss, wasting, rough wrinkled skin, skin rash, jaundice, accumulation of fluid in abdomen tissue results in lesions in animals, which vary from minor inflammation of the mucus to ulceration and hemorrhages. Lesions accounting for the nervous system have not been found. Symptoms and lesions are comparable in human beings and various classes of livestock. Acute poisoning is almost always involved and follows the course described below. Occasionally, chronic poisoning occurs. This happened in Canada in recent years when the vegetable research a quantity of Lenape cultivar of potato, found later to be high in solanine content. They developed the usual symptoms, and the variety was quickly withdrawn and placed under number for future breeding processes. Nervous effects, including apathy, drowsiness, salivation, dyspnea, difficulty breathing, trembling, progressive weakness, paralysis, prostration, and eventual unconsciousness. Pupil dilation is not diagnostic of solanine poisoning. In humans, the symptoms of stupefaction and loss of sensations are apparent. In acute poisoning, nervous symptoms build to maximum and death or recovery eventuate within a few hours to 1 to 2 days. Death is the result of paralysis, heart attack. Solanine poisoning is not always fatal. Cinema Star in Family Weekly, March 6, 1977, noted that chronic pain cost the society in the United States an estimated $50 billion a year in medical expenses, loss of wages, and worker compensation benefits. According to John J. Bonica, president of the International Association for the Study of Pain, chronic back pain alone, the most common problem, disables 7 million people annually and is the result for nearly 19 million visits to the doctor each year. Based on our cooperators' replies to omitting the nightshades from their diet, it appears that these crops play a major role in these back problems. Verona L. Van Pelt of Lancaster, Virginia, has brought to our attention the following books written by Alida Francis Pate for nurses, Practical Dietetics with Reference to Diet and Disease, in which she suggests avoiding tomato and potato to control aches and pain of rheumatism, the word used in olden days instead of arthritis. The Chinese eat mostly grains and soybeans in place of potatoes, very few tomatoes, but they produce and consume large quantities of eggplant and peppers in one form or another. Particularly in South China, tobacco is used widely. The Chinese have the major diseases found in the U.S. heart attack, high blood pressure, arthritis, and cancer. The Japanese in recent years have switched to some extent of the American type of diet that includes French fries, tomatoes, eggplant, pizza, etc. Stomach cancer and heart disease are increasing among the Japanese, who also eat pickled foods, some of which include the nightshades. The late Dr. C.H. Dong, Chinese born in California, spent time in China, studied medicine, received his MD degree from the Stanford Medical School in California, tells the story how he developed a serious case of arthritis after switching to the American diet and eventually developed a special diet with Jane Banks, co-author, and the cooperation of hundreds of his patients. They frowned upon tomatoes and peppers and in any form, including spices, among other things. He concludes that my dramatic recovery convinces me that rheumatic disease are caused by chemical poisoning put into our foods and by allergy to certain foods. Thus, he contends the basis for arthritis is in human diet. Dr. Myron Rosenbaum, MD, in a recent book, also concludes that diet is likely involved in arthritis, but he is unable to pinpoint the culprits. The Irish, who serve potatoes with most daily meals, and in the Mediterranean, who use an abundance of tomatoes, peppers, and eggplants, are plagued with a high percentage of arthritis and other key diseases. Our cooperator files are heavy with these ethnic groups, and they usually have a great difficulty adapting to a diet omitting these foods. The Eskimos, who have largely eaten meat until recent years, are less bothered with the major health diseases found in America and Europe. They have little to no arthritis, cancer, or heart attacks. The Hunzas in the Himalayas above India do not have a cancer problem. They are said to live 100 to 150 years. There may be other correlations with ethnic groups and disease problems. An in-depth study of these groups and others could be highly fruitful. The arthritic lead. The author of this book over 18 years, has been studying personal aches and pains, starting with diverticulitis, the 3-phase operations with a colonostomy. The local surgeon Rudolph Matflerd, MD, indicated possibly spices as the cause or hot foods. In tracing back, the only difference in daily routine that could have aggravated diverticulitis was heavy consumption of spiced tomato juice was causing tingling of the legs. In getting oriented in bed at night and in sleeping, later fresh tomatoes or tomatoes in any form were found to cause soreness in joints and muscles within an hour or two of eating them. Then the innocent white potato was pinpointed, followed by the pepper and the eggplant, which had considerable clout. Being a horticulturist, it is well known to us that these food crops are closely related, including smoking tobacco. The survey test. The effects of nightshades on the author were mentioned to friends who had similar problems, and they in turn tried the no nightshade diet with similar results. They urged the author to do something about it, to help people. Hence, with a few small ads in limited circulation, news media, and numerous items about the diet discussed subsequently in the media, we assembled some 3,000 cooperators. At this, waiting in 6 years, we have heard from 30+% of the cooperators during the past year. The data are given in the table 1 below. Most of the cooperators have had some degree of importance. Some reported pain relief and some reported marked improvements. In August 1979, questionnaires were sent to about 2,400 cooperators requesting a quick reply on a stamped return card so the author could present the data at the meeting of the International Academy of Preventive Medicine in St. Louis, Missouri in September. You will note the table 1 that replies were received from 763 cooperators in this short time. Of the 763 replies, 556 were getting positive results, or about 72%. When the cooperators were on the diet rigidly, more were getting positive results and better results than those somewhat on the diet. You will note some of those on the diet were discarding canes, walkers, and wheelchairs. The question always arises as to what happened to those who did not reply. There could be many reasons. Some moved to another address, some have passed away, some are just not good correspondents, at least for a quick reply. Some may have become discouraged because of a slow, if any, response to the diet, and this could be due to many factors, as over-medication excuses the vitamin and supplement pills, overshadowing of another disease, not really wanting to give up the nightshades, did not want their identity revealed, or perhaps, most importantly, did not really understand the diet, and saying they are on the diet when actually they are not. The response we got from the questionnaires is fairly good, which was over 30%. In any case, there is indication that quite a number of people are responding to the diet, and it should be of interest to arthritics, particularly those who have had the problem for many years and have tried almost everything with little to no success. It should be noted that where we can work with cooperators locally and check on them periodically to help perform the diet, cooperators nearly always get strong positive results. Where this diet has helped most. Young people with little to no bone or joint tendon damage seem to benefit quickly on the diet when their aches and pains are beginning to develop. Middle-aged people 40 to 60 likewise may be revealed of their health aches and pains if the problem has been with them only for a few years. However, if there is bone and vertebrae damage, some fusion and pressure on the nerves, one can expect 9 to 12 months, many longer, strictly on this diet before improvements may start. Generally, the problems does not worsen, and usually there is improvement if the person has patience to stay with his diet faithfully. In most arthritics, there is very gradual improvement over as much as 6 years. The extent of the test thus far, how far noticeable disfigurements can improve over time, one cannot be sure, but there is undoubtedly a limit. Surgery may be in order to relieve pressure on the nerves when there has been damage to the skeletal system. Then continue the diet permanently to avoid further damage. With more time and more cooperators, we should be able to make a better and clearer, longer evaluation. It appears to us that we have one of the better answers to the cause and control of arthritic, rheumatic aches and pains associated with health deterioration. Most cooperators have proven themselves the effectiveness of the diet by avoiding nightshades for 3 to 6 months. then going off the diet for a week or two to find the aches and pains returning or intensifying. Success on the diet seems to lie in one's ability to stay away from nightshades completely during the test period, avoid over-medication and excessive use of vitamins and supplements. In fact, in most cases, the latter three items should be gradually reduced and stopped, or taken only intermittently if testing has developed problems or shown good reason for taking them. For those people susceptible to the nightshades, apparently they must reconcile themselves to permanent abstinence from them, or reap the consequences. People who use tobacco, particularly cigarette smokers, are usually indifferent about the diet at first, mainly because they know the difficulty in trying to stop the habit. The few cooperators who have been able to stop the cigarettes while on the diet find a return of low-key aches and pains when they go back to smoking, but less intense than when they were partaking. Health improvements associated with the diet. Several ailments or problems have been improved or corrected by the diet for cooperators. Include inflamed swelling of the knees, feet, and hands, skin rashes, thinning of the blood, tennis elbow, tender nipples of men, chest pain as if man were standing on it, pelvis aches, pains, sluggish mind, body, muscles in general, mental depression, lack of ambition and desire to do things, reduced calcium on teeth, eliminated fever blisters, poor endurance, ups and downs in the day from attitudes as feeling good or bad, bleeding from the lower colon, fading liver spots, reduced size of moles, warts, less visits to the doctor, dentist, hospital, better eyesight and hearing, better awareness, loss of heart pains down left arm, correction of diverticulitis attacks, if so troubled, reduced ulcer problems, clearing of the joints and pains in muscle and joints, reduction in or no more headaches, loss of diarrhea attacks, better sleep and rest, calmer and more endurance, more ambitious, better outlook, better complexion, look younger and feel younger, better libido, probably due to better health, reduce or loss of muscle spasms in back and limbs as Charlie horse or cricks in the back, loss of growth pains in children, lowering of blood pressure to normal. The aches and pains of arthritics seems to settle in one location today and in another location tomorrow. They are attracted first to areas which there has been stress or tissue and bone damage, apparently due to the settling of the nightshade toxins as solanine near severed dead-end blood vessels. Vitamin D3 in the nightshades, as indicated in Chapter 6, may be involved in the movement and deposits of calcium, phosphorus for blood in damaged areas. The aches and pains usually disappear last from those areas where damage has been significant or long-standing. The nightshades and other diseases. Heart attack is widely accepted as the tobacco nightshade is involved in heart attacks. It is conceivable where a person may be eating rather heavily of tomatoes, potatoes, perhaps a pepper and eggplant, and or smoking a pack or two of cigarettes a day, that muscle spasms could result from settling on a limb or in the heart, causing a problem one day where there was no health problems the previous day. A characteristic of the nightshades under some conditions is to paralyze the muscle and nervous system. This is how the 40% nicotine sulfate pesticide from tobacco kills insects. This is how people have died, documented, or become seriously ill from eating nightshades under certain conditions. Nicotine extracted from several cigars can be used to poison or attack another person. A recent item appearing in Time magazine carried the heading, "Spasm causes heart attack." Medical doctors often assume that heart attacks are triggered by blood clots or atherosclerotic plaques, clogging the arteries that supply oxygen-rich blood to the heart muscle. But from the case cited by Time, the heart blood vessels were checked and found free from clots. The theory of spasm in heart muscles dates back to the early 1900s, but there has been no observed proof that spasms cause a heart attack. Cardiologist Albert A. Caddis, MD, of the University of California at Los Angeles has observed a heart spasm during a heart operation. Cause unknown. Dr. Attilo Materi, while at the University of Pisa, Italy, worked with a significant number of patients with atherosclerosis and chest pains and found that they were due to spasms. While spasms may only hinder blood flow, a blockage could occur in vessels already narrowed by fat deposits. A spasm could be triggered by psychological stress, and overworked heart needing rest, or a release of thromboxane A2. Also, as indicated above, the chemicals in nightshades such as nicotine and tobacco are known to cause blood vessel constriction and muscle paralysis. The food nightshades should be checked as a casual factor. According to Time, this awareness of muscle spasm is leading to a new line of attack against heart disease. In Figure 6, the heart disease in the U.S. leads other diseases for people between 25 to 64 years. Note also that arthritis is not listed as cause of disease, as cause of death, or at least not important enough to include in the chart. Arthritis appears to be only a symptom of other diseases developing in the body that eventually result in death. Hence, one should acknowledge the symptom and proceed to reduce or control it as early as possible. The nightshades apparently are the key factor involved in arthritis and could lead to other diseases. Note in Figure 7 that cancer and heart disease rank 5th and 6th, respectively, for young people 15 to 24 years. Cancer, again, the tobacco nightshade is widely recognized as a factor causing cancer, particularly in the respiratory channels. Figure 8, published in the first edition of this book, is of interest with respect to stomach cancer. The tomato, as pointed earlier in this chapter, was called in early times the cancer apple. Diverticulitis, which in the author's experience apparently was induced by excessive amounts of spiced tomato juice, contains hot pepper, is often a precursor of bowel cancer. In persistent cases, medical advice is often to remove the intestinal area by surgery. In people over 50 years of age, 30 to 40% are judged to have diverticula, often unknown to the individual, and the incidence increases with each subsequent decade of life. Bowel cancer is becoming a leading cause of death in middle age and older people. Since the tobacco nightshade is associated with the development of cancer, it would seem wise to check also its close relatives, the food nightshades. It is interesting that some moles, a cancer caution, gradually disappear on the diet, and Eskimos, who eat largely meat, and Hunzas have little to no cancer. The mortality rate for Iowa farmers from 6 kinds of cancer is much higher than for those of non-farmers, reported from Leon Bermestia, head of a project in preventative medicine and environmental health, University of Iowa, Iowa City, a media interview in 1980. The study was based on 20,311 white Iowa farmer men from 1971 to 1978, concluding that the farmers were more likely to die from leukemia, prostate, lip, stomach, bone marrow, and lymphatic cancers than non-farmers. Farmers, however, were less susceptible to tobacco-related cancers than normal people. The results were surprising since the general concept is that farmers are healthier than city people. Dr. Burmeister indicated that farmers may be more susceptible to certain kinds of cancer because of their proximity to animal viruses, farm chemicals, coming from the Midwest farming business, as the book author does, Missouri. We well know that most farmers have meat and potatoes 3 times a day for energy to carry on. They also have a ready supply of nightshade vegetables from their home gardens. There is the question of artificial sweeteners, an incident of bladder cancers. Dr. Winder and Stellman, American Health Foundation, New York City, reported a case control study of 302 males and 65 female bladder cancer patients. An equal number of control patients matched with them in age, sex, and hospital room status. They found no association between the use of artificial sweeteners or diet beverages and bladder cancer. No dose response was observed with respect to quantity or duration of the two combined. No evidence was found to suggest that artificial sweeteners or diet beverages promote termogenic effects of tobacco smoking. In any case, it is probably wise to use saccharin moderately. In summary, our knowledge in human nutrition and what is the proper diet is grossly inadequate in the world today. Anything you as readers can do to boost your nutritional research programs in both the food and medical professions will bring you answers that much sooner. Agricultural research and human health. The agriculture experiment station over the country have been operating productively since and before the 1900s. They are well equipped with highly trained and dedicated staff in the production of food quality. Working as a team with the medical researchers, we should be able to accelerate the solution of key human health problems associated with the diet. Cancer and cardiovascular disease could fall into this classification, and possibly alcoholism and drug addiction. There are dozens of other human diseases for which we have no answers as to cause. Agricultural research is thoroughly acquainted with plants and animals and their nutrition. The nutritional problem in plants is often passed on to the animal eating the plants, and eventually to the people eating the animals or plants, or both. Agricultural research background definitely is needed in a team effort to solve human nutritional diseases. A field that has become rather grossly neglected. It is difficult to experiment with humans, but limited tests can be run with animals. Response to livestock, particularly the pig, to food and environment changes is similar to that of humans. The pig is an expensive animal for the experimentation, so much of the work is done with rats. Agricultural researchers in solving farm problems often make discoveries that also benefit people in treatment of their diseases. 2 of the dozens of these are cited in the accompanying photographs, one of Dr. Carl Paul Link of the University of Wisconsin, and the other of the late Dr. Selman A. Waxman of Rutgers University in New Jersey. College of Veterinary Science and Medicine in the Agricultural Experiment Station has made immense contributions over the years to the agriculture and the health and well-being of the consumer. Briefly, a sampling of these contributions are: developed spinal anesthesia, developed hypodermic needle injection technique, formulated immunization techniques with toxoids with Respirine studies, developed tranquilizers for humans, plus numerous other contributions. In summary, over half of the U.S. veterinary profession, either directly or indirectly, contributes to human health and preventative medicine through their activities in livestock practice, regulatory disease control, and food inspection, and funding new research in human nutrition. There are many staff members in the agricultural experimentation stations, both domestic and foreign, who are well qualified to help in solving human disease. If so assigned, you can be reasonably sure that they will undertake this work with a missionary attitude. Actually, there are few diseases in agriculture at this time that are unsolved. If agricultural staffs could be assigned along with medical research to work on human nutritional diseases, the botanist could advise the classification and grouping of plants. The plant breeder can breed down or try to eliminate the toxic material in a plant. The chemist can remove the toxins from the processed product. The food scientist can modify the processing procedure. The plant entomologist can evaluate and correct any disease or pest association with the problem. The veterinarian and animal nutritionist can experiment with test animals, and the agronomist and horticulturist, as well as the engineers, can seek replacement crops and adjust or perfect the cultural and handling procedures, all to solve a human disease problem. All we need is encouragement and new funding to do the job. We say new funding because the agricultural staffs already are fully occupied in the production and quality of food. Private industrial grants, in addition to state and federal, for graduate student training are relatively economical and serve 2 purposes: A, accomplish needed research, and B, help train young people for this professional field of human nutrition. Private grants with no strings attached of $10,000 to $15,000 annually for 2 years, master degrees for 3 to 4 years, doctorate can be negotiated easily with the interested departments in agriculture and medicine. When no strings are attached, findings will not be patented. The university will not withdraw 35% or more from the grant for maintenance and administration. The grants will need to cover at least the salary and the tuition of the graduate students. Any additional monies can be used for the supply and the equipment. Trained PhDs and MD staff will also be needed. The Nightshade Research Foundation has been established with the objective listed on page 187. Trustees of the foundation are convinced that several important human diseases are caused by the improper diet, and the nightshades are likely a key cause. If you wish to contribute to the worthy study, large or small, trustees would be happy to hear from you. We have enough leads in this book to keep dozens of researchers working productively for a long time. Did you ever check through the Merrick Manual of Human Diseases or any health manuals? Note the numerous diseases for which there is no known cause or control. Many of the diseases are rather common and could be associated with the diet. The field, as noted above, has been neglected. A low level of subtle poisoning of the body, as with the Solanaceae toxins, could eventually result in a number of digestive, circulatory, nervous, and structural diseases of humans, as with animals. Since the first edition of this book in 1977, we are seeing an increasing number of items in the media urging more research in human nutrition to find the causes of cardiovascular and degenerative diseases, high blood pressure, heart attacks, and above all, cancer. In 1978 to 1979, the U.S. Department of Agriculture was asked to direct $15 million toward research on human nutritional diseases. At first, since the department has worked mainly on farm problems in the past. In the 1980s, over $1 billion was being spent on the American Cancer Institute, mostly on treatment of cancer and little on finding the cause. As indicated earlier, there may be a moderate impact of this diet on the food and drug industries, since about 10% of the population suffers from arthritis. The impact of the tobacco health situation has only been moderate on the usage of tobacco. Farmers, in any event, have been and are quick to switch to other annual crops if they are in demand and they are bringing in better net profits. State and federal agricultural experiment stations, together with agricultural colleges and their highly trained staffs, always have been ready to help farmers and industry make any needed shift to other crops that can be grown in a given area. Also, these agencies are in a position to seek new crops or by research make necessary adjustments to the current crops to keep the farmers, the markets, and the consumers reasonably happy. If there is a change in the production and movement of these crops, it will likely not be felt for 5 to 10 years.